And we're live. That was the best countdown Kenji's ever given us.
That was a good one.
All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. It's myself here with Kenny today. I feel like I've been gone about a month from the channel. Maybe not from Sunday postings because we have videos that I've been a part of, but from being here, yeah, it's been a little bit. So as always, go to coreteamhawaii.com for any real estate needs. That's where you get in touch with us. You can scroll to the very bottom of the page. That's even though it's at the bottom of the page. I like the way that one comes through our website. But any which way you get in contact with us is great. But you go to the bottom of that page at coreteamhawaii.com and contact us for anything real estate. We've had a big uptick in sellers, local people, or people on the mainland. For example, I have a call when I leave here. I'm going to make. It appears that these people are in the Bay Area on the peninsula, and they have a home to sell here. So we've had a lot more sellers reaching out, and we're getting those listings on our YouTube channel. And I have all the sales skills. I've studied the scripts in the past before, back in the early days of real estate and all these things about why I'm the best and we're the best. But one thing that no one can do is get the exposure that we can get by putting your property on this channel. And then in terms of how detailed, nuanced, skilled we are, you can assess that throughout the thousands of hours of video. So first, we'd like to let's bring up Kenny's review.
All right.
So you've been working with...
It feels weird when I say it.
So Jared says, Kenny is great. Kenny's great! Exclamation mark. He understands our needs and wants. He understands our needs and wants, and is in great shape with us. Jared, how's it been working with Jared? Or tell us about Jared, sure. Where he came from, how long we've been working with him.
Jared's coming from Italy.
Military,
yeah, Navy guy. Jared and Adasha, aloha. Just opened up escrow.
Okay,
we're in Kailua. Sold a home in Texas while they were in Italy. Had a home in Italy, sold it, went on to base.
They bought a home in Italy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So not first-time home buyers, obviously, yeah. And but they made a big trip across the pond, and that'll be one of the questions for today from previous. So
did they sell in Texas? Did they need to free up some of their VA entitlement to then use all of their entitlement here?
A little bit of that, but... It was a family home.
Okay.
And so it was more liquidity for Jared than it was entitlement. The home in Italy was where entitlement had to come through. So it's just a little bit of all of that.
I see.
And yeah, so he's a different kind of VA buyer, not traditional zero down.
Because that'll happen, guys. So even for non-VA, but for VA, you have a VA entitlement, and depending on how much the home cost that you bought, and where you bought it, etc., you're using up a certain percentage of your entitlement. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I went to go buy a house recently, and I didn't get accepted, but I was thinking I was gonna have to go conventional, and our lending team said, "Why conventional? Why not VA?" And I'm like, "I don't think I have much entitlement left, right?" And they're like, yeah, but you still have enough left that it makes sense to use VA. You're just going to have to increase down payment by quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes people are selling homes in other states, and that's why it's a good idea to get in contact with us 4 months, is a really good sweet spot. Of course, earlier when, people know they're getting orders because of their priority in the military. We're getting orders in 9 months, and it's going to be Hawaii because I'm coming from Bahrain or whatever. But 4 months, 5 months, 5 to 4 months, that's when things really start moving. And it could be that you sell a home on the mainland. You win monopoly by keeping homes, even your Hawaii home. Now that means we don't get a listing in 3 or 4 years when you leave. But when you can keep homes, you build a portfolio and you win monopoly that way. So sometimes it's just refinancing it. So getting the Texas home off of the VA loan into a conventional situation, especially if you bought it 4 or 5 years ago, you're probably still cash flow and you can refi to conventional. And now you have 100% entitlement to buy here. So these are things that we, do. If it could not be VA, it could be that the home in Texas is conventional. But you really don't want to get rid of it, but the debt to income numbers are just real close. And so, I don't tend to like to do this, but maybe you're at 20 years on your note and you refi to a 30, and now your cash flow position puts you to where you can buy here. Right. So all these tricks and nuances to getting a deal done when you own multiple properties. And
generally speaking, refining the home on the mainland because of that price point to free up the entitlement here and use the VA loan here because the VA loan rate is lower here on the higher price point thing versus conventional. Maybe that rate's higher than you want to refi into, but as you play the numbers, it generally makes more sense to do it that way.
Yeah. So we have a few questions from past, and as always, put your questions in the comments here. If we can see them, if I can look at them while we're on this live, we'll answer them here and now. But we have a few from past live, so put your questions in the comment section, whether you're watching this right now or you're watching it tomorrow or in a year from now. Drop your comments here, and we'll do our best to answer them. So we have a few from past.
Yep, queued up and ready to go.
Okay, so first is Susan.
Susan, yes, and it's a two-part question. When do you think interest rates will go down? It's a crystal ball, shake the 8 ball kind of question. Little birdie told me that there's some lining within the crystal ball that September is a time frame that's being considered amongst the experts that do all of that watching and analyzing of that. We're one day at a time here.
Well, I want to say what's up, Hawaii 5-0, aloha from Houston, Texas, and Marissa. Thank you, Marissa. My answer to that is I just don't try to answer it anymore. In the short term, I will focus a lot on that. So if it's like we're writing offers, we consult our lending team and we say, hey, what do you guys think rates are doing? If we think rates might be trending upwards, and the recent trends have been small, like 0.25% or whatever, but that matters to you on $1 million, that matters. And so we might hurry, let's try and lock in. Let's get accepted. Let's lock the rate. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but there are lenders who will tell you, well, we'll lock you without an accepted offer. That is misleading at best. It may even be illegal. In the Code of Federal Regulations, there are 5 elements that have to be in place for you to lock a rate, and one of them's a executed purchase contract. So if they're locking you, that means the rate's so high that there's room to fudge it. You can't lock without an accepted offer. That's one. We might rush to get you locked and try and call the listing agent and say, look, let's get me that thing back today so that we can lock. Because tomorrow interest rates change and my offer is going to change. So that might be a little leverage for them to accept us. Right. If rates may be going down, a strategy we might use is, let's write the offer for 45 days instead of 30. Assuming the listing agent's, good either way. It wouldn't change our chances of acceptance. It's been on the market for 50 days. And, we tell them, hey, we want to do a 45-day close with a 15-day extension. Usually we can do a 30-day close, right? But if rates are trending, there's a Fed meeting coming up, Kamala's in the race now and they want rates, rates to be good as Kamala's trying to win or whatever the case may be. With a 45-day close, usually we have a window where we could switch lenders. Now, not switch from the local lender, but the wholesale line that they're brokering to. So they're brokering to ABC Mortgage USA. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 weeks later, the Fed meets, all this political stuff happens, China launches a bomb, whatever, the rates go down to stimulate the economy. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe the jobs reports came back the way they want it. The inflation numbers are better than they thought, and they lower rates a little. Well, if we did a longer closing, now we have time to get you off of ABC Lending USA and get you to XYZ Lending USA under today's new rates, and we just start over. But we needed time to do that, right? And so my short version is I don't try and answer when a rate's going to drop. Went on a listing appointment recently, and the person said, I really think rates are going to drop. And when rates drop, I will get this number that I want. And the person is right that they will get more money for their listing in a environment where rates are like 1% lower than they are today. Mm-hmm. If rates are 6.5 today and then they're 5, in 3 months, their home's probably going to sell for more. I don't think any of us can predict when that's going to happen at this point.
Nope.
And in June of 2020, rates dropped, I believe. You were better off selling in July, and then in the next February, and then later in that August. When rates go down, that'll stimulate prices going up. But the day that rates go down, you haven't had time for the prices to go up. So these are all things to consider with that.
I think over the last couple of years, the pace has sped up. There's a little bit more easy access to info, so maybe it's a sharper J curve up, possibly, but still well said.
Well, like with appraisers, right? Yeah. So let's say home went from 900 to $1 million.
2 weeks for an appraisal, and that's what's going to affect market pricing.
And you want 2 or 3 or 4 homes to have appraised under these new rates before you sell yours. Because if you're the first one, say rates are 7 today and they go to 2 tomorrow. And you can reverse engineer that math. You can say, well, at 7, at an interest rate of 7, and I buy it for 900, my payment would be, X. If I buy it for $1 million at 2%, my payment, I'd pay 1.1 or whatever, right? Well, although that math works, appraisers don't get to appraise based on your math. Right. They appraise on the last sale. And so you want a few to have sold, right?
For sure.
But anyways, real technical stuff.
Lending,
let me know if that's
strategy.
Too technical for you guys. You're like, hey, Derek, chill out. It's too technical. Let me know.
Second part of Susan's question.
Okami dog.
Yeah. Can you do a video with other buyers that have made the trek across the ocean and some of the experiences and pitfalls? I'll give you my quick version because I'm one of those. This is just in the last 3 years. Pitfalls to avoid. Make sure that if you have pets that you're really quickly, early on, as soon as you get your orders, starting that process. We've got videos that we can show you on that. There's... storing your household goods. I would say store them here. Bring everything for 2 reasons. One, storage here generally is a little bit cheaper. Storage comes at a high value. That means there's major competition. So the self-storage companies are generally pretty fairly and competitively priced. And then it's going to be hard to replace any of those unique items of furniture here. Most of the furniture stores carry very similar stuff here. So little things like that. If you would... Kenji, good job on this. There's a link that we've got a handful of client testimonials that'll share some of that stuff for you too as well, Susan. So we are doing that. If that's something that you guys want more of, let us know. Put them in the comments. We'll continue to build that up. Okay. Mortgage. Next question is from Houston Woodward. Houston, how's it? Thank you for the question. Mortgage between $3,000 and $3,500 possible for a single family home, preferably standalone detached. Is it possible? Yes. If we're going sheerly off of price point, I would lean towards a no. Current state of affairs with rates, I would probably put that somewhere around 600-ish. Maybe a little bit less.
I wonder what kind of loan, right? So are we talking about $3,000 to $3,500? I'm gonna squeeze all I can out of it and call it $3,500. Are we talking $3,500 after you've put 25% down? Or are we talking like a VA loan where that's the $3,500 represents all of the purchase price? So that would be important to note. Mm-hmm. Let's be conservative. Right now, it's less than. We always look at the interest rates and we say for every $100,000 you want to borrow, how much would your monthly payment be? When rates were stable at like 4.5, 4.7, it was somewhere around $500 for every $100,000 you're borrowing. It's been north of 600 recently. Mm-hmm. So let's just call it 625. So it would be 3,500. Well, 3,500 divided by $625. That's 5.6. So it's $560,000 in purchase price.
I was close.
What'd you say?
I said 600.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Well, and it probably is 6 because 625 is probably a little conservative.
Yeah.
And so standalone single family, sure, but standalone single family in Waianae, in Mairi, Sea Country, whatever, say 700, you're gonna have about 150 with closing $160,000 delta to make up. So if you had 100 and some change in cash, then we can now get you into the standalone single family. If it's 800,000 that you're looking at and say Eva, then now we're talking like 250-ish thousand that you need to make up in cash. So a VA loan for a standalone at $3,500 a month, no, not.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen.
For full variety, $1 million to 1.1 is the median single family household price point, month over month. And so that delta becomes 400 plus. If we're trying to find something specific in a specific neighborhood, it gets a little bit further spread apart from these numbers. But there are a few spots on the island where you can be in the high 7s, low 8s for a single family home, and that helps a little bit.
We're really talking though townhome. Yeah. Where can we get in a townhome that's going to feel like a single family?
Right.
And at that price point, it's going to be tough unless we have cash to make up the delta. If that were a VA loan, then that's going to be tough. I have a couple of questions from the chat.
Okay.
So Derek, great name, by the way. Any info on Aria Lane? There isn't a lot of info to be had yet. They're turning the old St. Francis into Manoa they're turning the old St. Francis in Manoa into, they're repurposing it for residential. This is the Avalon Group. They did the same thing on Modea, which we did a video on. Big fan of what they do. Big fan. I don't know the lady. I'd love to meet her, who's like the queen of the Avalon Group and a local businesswoman who's just doing amazing things. But I don't know. But if I were to judge what I saw at Modea, if I take what I saw at Modea and I were to apply it to Aria Lane, it's exciting. And how often is there any sort of new variety to be had in Manoa? So I personally will be keeping an eye out on that because I'd be interested. Who knows? Maybe scoop one myself if I'm in a position to do so.
Definitely exciting. Good question.
Sarah Johnson. Are the CPR single-family home communities seeing the higher master insurance policy rate increases akin to the high-rise condos and the low and mid-rise condo townhome communities? So, Sarah, this is a big conversation that would beg an entire video series and or to not do so because it can go in so many different directions that it'd be hard to cover it all. But I'm going to do my best to answer your question. So CPR single family homes, I'm thinking like Terraza, Tiburon, and Eva or something. Let me read your question. Seeing the high master insurance policy rate increases. It just depends. So we were just in our meeting today talking about a community that our clients are getting in that is a CPR master policy. Like in this community, the HOA actually takes care of more than in most. So the HOA fee historically has been the highest in the general region for single family. They replace the roof for you, when the roof needs replacing. Like it's a really dominant HOA in that sense. And from what I understand from the team is that in underwriting it so far, it doesn't appear like there will be any increases. They have 100% replacement cost insurance already, and it's good to go. It really is going to depend. But the way that this is overgeneralized, but the way it has kind of gone is like condo building, almost guaranteed plan on it. If it hasn't already happened, it will. Townhome building, definitely need to look into it because we've seen like North Point and Mililani Malka, we saw it double, nearly double. And then we've seen other townhome communities where it's not doubling. I own a townhome in Ko'olina, and we don't know what the increase will be, but there will be an increase. We've seen others where it's not an issue. And then if I had another smaller thing, I would go down here to single family.
Right.
But in single family, less likely for it to be an issue, but it could be. In fact, we had a client, aside from the whole CPR master insurance thing, we had a client who was just trying to get homeowners insurance on a home in Kapolei. Mm-hmm. And multiple carriers turned them down. So one was USAA, which in hindsight, we knew that would happen because USAA is not insuring homes over $1 million right now. But the other two were like Liberty Mutual and I don't know, another major insurer, and they just didn't want to take it. They just didn't want to take it, period. So single families are being affected to some extent, even if they're not CPR. I have 2 family members in insurance. The one, my sister-in-law, who is my insurance agent. I went to their office and met with them, and we're not necessarily talking real estate, but we're just talking industry. And when I met with them, they weren't as startled about everything. 2 weeks later, she was like, we can't even sell insurance. It's so slow. The people who have been doing this for 50 years have never seen anything like this. Even after Iniki, after Katrina, this insurance time, time in the insurance industry is unprecedented. They couldn't even write new policies. So you could have a problem even with your single family insurance. Oh, by the way, one of my clients reached out to me. Shout outs to Robert and Nan, and said that, long story short, their insurance provider called them and said, we need to increase your insurance. You're not insured enough. You're only at this amount per square foot. We need to increase you to here for replacement. And he goes, okay. We bought in the beginning of 2020, like a lot of inflation has happened. Yep. If I was only at X amount per square foot for replacement, it would be reasonable that I would need more. Mm-hmm. However, they were trying to sell them at here.
And safe to assume the house is worth more, so the insurance premium
copper is worth more, wood's worth more, right. Labor's worth more, but they wanted to increase it to a degree that didn't make sense. And what I learned was I have some inside knowledge on this company that is historically a very good company, and they're taking so many losses that what they figure is, if they do this widespread campaign to target everyone, increase everyone's insurance to a degree higher than they even need, it'll help them recoup their losses. And so I had one of my people call that company, did some things, and they increased their insurance as appropriately, but not to the degree that the company was recommending. So be aware of that as well.
Ask questions.
And Sarah, just sorry to summarize again, depends, not as likely in single family CPR, but still possible. Mm-hmm. Bombastic reviews. Hey fellas, love your channel and love Hawaii. We're a young family of 4 with a floral events business in Vancouver, Canada. Really want to get an E2 visa and relocate to Hawaii. Is that possible? I don't know. I really don't have comment. I don't know anything about that. But thanks for watching the channel.
One little tidbit, just because I have a few clients that we're working with as a team very loosely. They're a year or 2 out. If your business brings you into the States and you're paying U.S. income taxes, that's generally the first thing that needs to happen to be able to borrow U.S. funds with a mortgage loan to buy a property in the U.S. Outside of that, if you're a cash buyer, I think it's definitely possible. But yeah, reach out to us if you're interested. We can find some sources and have a conversation.
Kenny will do that for you. I don't know anything about that stuff. All right, what's the next question?
We'll go back to some of the preloaded questions.
Yeah.
This one's from Daniel. what is the life expectancy of a house, single wall construction with jealousy windows, such as those in Coconut Grove area of Kailua?
I think we answered this, but but we'll do it again. It's a good question, so we'll do it again.
Is it a wise purchase, and is double wall recommended and preferred, pluses and minuses for both?
Yeah, so Mahe and I went over this, I know. I don't know if it was on a live, on an actual video, but on a Sunday drop video, you know. Mm-hmm. But what Daniel's asking is these shacks that by mainland standards, you know, so if you go, you ever been to like Boston or these places where you have homes from like the 1800s that are still solid and
down in New Orleans, outside of New Orleans, yeah.
So I don't know, but I've heard in like Boston they have these homes where you can't even get this wood anymore because they would take like a piece of redwood or oak or pine or something and take like a 80-foot high column and make this like 3-story thing, and there'd be 4 of them, and that was the foundation of the house. These like 4 trees basically. And these you can still buy these homes, and they're still standing and solid. And they had to get through weather. Those people needed to burn fires and make it through a Boston winter. In California, where I lived, the home I was living in was built sometime early 1900s. They call it a Western Victorian in the Bay. And there's just these beautiful, amazing homes built with solid wood and just the post for the stairs, the steps up to the porch is like this post, and they were doing that decades and decades ago on the mainland. Here, it's Hawaii. There's trade winds. There's no need for air conditioning or fire. Although you'll see some old houses with chimneys, but not common. And so they said, let's just put up single wall construction with these windows that just kind of turn. And now instead of you have a window, right? Instead of half of it opening, now the whole thing can open and let wind in. Mm-hmm. And we built, in Florida when I was young, we had a shed out back. And it's pretty much what a single wall construction house is here from, pre-1960s or whatever. And so is it a wise purchase? How long do they last? It just depends. You still see some homes, like occasionally you'll see a home being moved from one area to the other. They'll take these single wall construction homes. If they're small enough, they'll just jack up the whole thing, put it on a flatbed truck, and pay for whatever permits to get cops to block off a couple lanes, however that works. Or sometimes they cut them in half. They'll take these homes, cut them in half, and like move it from Manoa to the North Shore or something like that, to Waianae. And the homes can last forever. I mean, how long does a piece of wood last, Right. A piece of wood can last forever if treated well. And so, at least forever in the context of our lifetimes. And so, a way to answer this is if you were building today, would you build? Yes. My son's asking, can I go on the iPad? He knows the timing. I have to tell him yes right now. If I were building today, would I build single wall construction? Well, me, I wouldn't, just because I don't prefer that home. But like Mahe, she probably would.
She prefers it. She said it more than once.
She probably would build that home. And how long would it last? It'll last as long as you care for it. Now, do you probably need to be a little more diligent with termite treatment and tenting and inspections? Yes. If there was a hurricane, which Oahu hasn't experienced a hurricane in over a century, would that be not as solid as a double wall construction, drywall, concrete foundation home? Yeah. But assuming no natural disaster, no hurricane, and assuming you take care of it, it can last a really long time. Mm-hmm. So
there's a bunch of them still holding up really well now. They're well maintained.
They'll be there after us too.
Waterproof paint on the outsides, like you said, termite treatment, things like that, and just keeping it up. And I think pretty much covered pluses and minuses. Keeping heat and cool in and out, whichever is your preference, is going to be a little more challenging, dual wall versus single wall.
Kenj, your mom's house is single wall. You said jealousy windows?
Yeah. People sit here, but
Poston Pier. Single wall, I think. I haven't been there for like 20 years. Yeah.
I think maybe remodeled and then just more drywall done on the inside.
Is there siding? Oh. I think that counts as another wall. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let me ask you this. I'm asking Kenji, our video master, if you were building a house today, would you build single wall construction or would you go double wall? You go double. Yeah. Kenji bougie now. He didn't forget where he came from. All right, what's the next question?
All right. This one comes from Michael and Terry. We know Ewa Beach area is new, but are any of the homes there coming available with VA assumable yet?
It's the most common place.
Yeah. It's matter of fact, if you were to filter a home search for assumable loan options, it almost eliminates the rest of the island.
Yeah,
and
so
sort of zones in on Ewa Beach because there are a lot of military families that end up moving out there, whether active, reserve, government position that's VA loan eligible, retirees, things like that. There's a lot of that in the community out there. So
I'm going to bring up the map, Kenj. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do is bring up the map of Oahu, and we're going to elaborate on what Kenny just said. So when we have people who are looking for VA assumable loans, a couple of things. That typically doesn't materialize because you got to remember, person bought the home for $800. Home is now worth $1 million. They've paid off $100. So $700,000 can be assumed, but there's this $300,000 gap in the market value of the home. And if they're going to go through the hassle of letting you assume it, if it's worth $1 million, you know what? I want at least $1,025,000. I want a little bit of extra money, just like what was happening in 2021. I need a premium for you to get this 2%. And so, but aside from that, there's a lot of cash that usually needs to happen. Now, not always, but that ends up disqualifying people a lot of the time. But if it could happen, like if I could find the home that I want and it had an assumable VA loan and I had the cash to close the gap, 100%. Why? Like who wouldn't want a 2 or 3% interest rate? Which who knows? It might be 20 years to never before we ever see 2.25 again. To what Kenny was saying, let's lump in Kapolei. So 96706, which is this zip code here. And then 96707, which is Kapolei. That's all the Ewa plain. So if you look at the topography of this island, there's really no flat area. Look, it's like mountain going down to ocean, mountain to ocean, mountain to ocean. This is the only flat area of the island called the Ewa plain. So this is where most VA assumable loans pop up. And to Kenny's point, a lot of military people. It looks like the mainland in some of these neighborhoods. Kenny lives in Ho'akale, where it looks like we call it like nice officer housing.
Yeah.
So this is the most common place to see them. I would venture to say 2/3 of all VA assumable loans that you could find are probably in these two zip codes. The next area would be Kailua. And you're like, well, why Kailua? So many people from the mainland, i.e. military, end up buying in Kailua. And also it's a more transitory place. It's higher turnover. Mm-hmm. In Aiea Heights, in Hauula, in Pupukea, these people aren't coming and going, every 5 years.
Right.
But in Ewa, Kapolei, and Kailua, you just get a lot more coming and going. And so VA assumables that are actually there to be had, Kailua, if we call Ewa and Kapolei 1, Kailua is number 2. And I'm not sure what would be number 3, maybe Mililani and or Kaneohe.
Yep. But
it just doesn't happen a ton. Maybe even Honolulu for that matter, because maybe there's a bunch of condos that have VA assumables. But what was back to the question is, Are there ones in Eva?
Yeah.
Certainly, yes, there are.
Certainly, yes, there are. It's not too new, really. The newness of Eva and the way that it's developed over the last 20 years or so, I think is the attraction for transient living coming from the mainland, wanting to find something familiar, built the way that you're used to a home being built. Probably, if not one of the high priority points of choosing Eva over Kaneohe, just as an example.
Yeah.
It's that. So
you know,
go ahead.
No, you know Brian and Danielle, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they chose where they chose, because she has these one-liners, and one of her one-liners that I told her I was gonna take isn't actually consistent with what they chose in a home. But what she said was, we want to get out of Eva and we want to go to Kailua because, and she said, you know, I don't want to go to my neighbor's house and I already know my way around. I don't want to know the layout of my neighbor's home before I even go in it. She's referring to tract homes and subdivisions and I was like, yeah, in Kailua and Hawaii Kai, you know, and Manoa or whatever, you don't go in someone's home blindfolded and like the bathroom's over there and the room's over there.
Yeah.
But in like Eva Gentry, there's like 3 models. So if you've been in those 3 models, that's it.
Yep.
And they were just, it was a cute way of saying I want more character. And so
they did find a home with some cool character, but
it is
one of 3 floor plans.
Yeah,
too.
it is one of 3 floor plans. Yeah.
So great question. Yes, Eva Beach can for sure. You can find VA assumables there. Please reach out to us. Let us know. We can answer some more questions on how that VA assumable works. I would also add the one little point of make sure that you've got plenty of patience on a timeline, because it's as quick as 60 days. We've seen a few here and there, but I would set the expectation at least 4 to 6, and we've had worst case scenario of like 10 months. On our side.
I don't think the 10-month is going to happen again, but
there's more practice to it.
Yeah. Early on, we did a 10-monther, and it was brutal.
Yeah. Next question for Michael and Terry is same price point from our Cali location to Eva Beach area. In shape, just turned 60. Are they building more single-story, smaller homes for people like us?
Yeah,
lose a little bit of the context at the beginning of that question, but the answer is yes.
I think they're saying it where they live in California versus Eva Beach, homes cost about the same. Difference is property tax here will be much cheaper.
Much less.
Well, depending though, because there's Prop 13, so they might be locked into like a 1970s property tax rate.
Yeah.
But assuming you were buying new in California today versus Hawaii, our property tax rate is the best.
Yep.
But as a percentage in the country.
Single level homes. Nohopapa has single level homes. Some of the single family or the single level homes that we've seen in the last few years probably going to be turning around pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So near new, 3, 4, 5 years old, will start to come available. Makamai has a second phase coming.
I meant to ask how Daniel's doing.
They're doing good.
Okay. Well, side note,
I don't know if we want to let that out right now.
No,
I got the inside juice on it.
Okay, we'll save that. We'll save that.
Makamai is Eva Gentry.
Yeah.
They're basically done. They have one more final release. There's one new build, and then 3 of the 4 models will be sold, and then the last one they're keeping for the next phase.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to start between now and the end of the year. So
bottom line is there are things you don't necessarily have to buy new, but if you did want to buy new, it'd probably be DR Horton, probably. But there are things. So, and if you're in retirement age, I like Makakilo for retirement because of the beauty you get to enjoy every day, but the walkability may not be the best, and so.
It's very, very hilly.
And I wonder, it's just depending on your preference. Some people really love Ko'olina for retirement. And you could get into Coconut Plantation or Ko'olina Kai Golf Estates into a townhome that is single level and live this resort, super walkable, lifestyle. So also something to consider.
Yeah. Definitely. That covers all the preloaded questions.
Okay.
Do we have any more coming through?
Janet, aloha. I love watching your channel. We love you, Janet.
Janet.
Art. Kenji asked Art, what kind of art do you do? He said, no art. It's my name. Well, I guess we'll wrap this one up then. If you guys have more questions in the future, let us know. Kenny's been here holding it down in my absence. I'm sure with Mahe as well. I actually didn't watch the last lives, but Mahe has some. Her fiance is in town, so I told her not to come in today. Mm-hmm. I was gone. My father passed away last week, a week from today actually, and since today, or however you say that. And that's why I was gone. So all the love and anything good about me comes from that man. And rest in peace to my father. We're probably going to do something on this channel for that in the near future, so stand by for that. The Jar Foundation says, you guys don't discuss buying land on Oahu, specifically in North Shore area. Do you guys sell land as well? If yes, is it easy to require a permit to build a new home? No, the reason why we don't discuss it is because, one, there's not much land to be had here. That's more of the Big Island probably has multiples more of land deals than all of the rest of the islands put together. Mm-hmm. I've never actually been a part of someone buying land. It's easy. Like, we could do it, but it's expensive. The permitting is a pain. If you got your home built in 18 months, I'd be super impressed. I planned for 3 years. Yes. And you could probably do it quicker. I know flippers who get it done quicker, but they're usually also putting up just basic single wall construction homes in zip codes where they can make it happen. I'll just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. So almost no one, it just doesn't happen. Almost everyone who's interested in doing it doesn't end up doing it. It costs more for you to buy land here and then build at however many dollars per square foot, etc. It's going to cost more. Your money's going to be sitting there stagnant for 24 plus months. It just doesn't make sense and doesn't end up happening almost always. And so that's why we don't talk about it. And yeah, we just kind of stay in our lane. If someone did want to do land and they're like, Derek, I know you said it's not a big thing for you guys. I am 100% serious. Could you refer me to the right agent? Then we'd do so. We get you to a better agent who'd be better suited to help you with that. All right. Tuned in late. Love you guys. Lots of valuable info. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for the condolences and aloha. Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week. See you guys on Sunday in some form or fashion.
Thank you guys for continuing to watch Substitute Kenny and Mahe, and we appreciate you guys checking in with us every Tuesday. Again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Go down to the bottom of the page, coreteamhawaii.com, fill out that Let's Talk form, and we'll reach out. All right.
Right on.